I've been asked this multiple times, how do I feel about the upcoming Captain Marvel movie? And to be completely honest, I'm not excited at all. But that doesn't mean that I'm being like pessimistic or I believe that it's gonna be complete trash. In fact, it's quite the contrary. My expectation is that the movie is gonna at least be decent, but I will say that if it does end up being terrible, I'm not gonna be too surprised. And there's a few different reasons as to why I'm here with that. For starters, the new reboot of the new Captain Marvel, I have it right here, didn't do it any sort of justice. This series has been rebooted multiple times over the last like 5 years, and they can't get it right. Captain Marvel issue 1 was terrible, randomized, feminist garbage. And I understand that the people working on the movie are not the same ones working on the comic, but there's no secret as the comics, is going to be used to really get people stoked on the movie, which is why the first issue was released when it was. But with this randomized nuclear man that shows up at the end of it, this whole misogynistic girl power, we gonna attack the patriarchy sort of approach, man, it's not hard to understand as to why I'm really, here with it, and I'm not really stoked on the movie, that is. The promotional schemes have also been like this rah-rah, go girl sort of deal, and that's really lousy to me being a grown-ass man. So that's where I'm at with it, and because of all of this, though I hope that it isn't, the movie can be a bunch of overemphasized, I'm a girl, female empowerment stuff, which would not surprise me to say the least. At that point, it's less about comic book depictions or character building and more about having this token powerful female. And this Captain Marvel did just come out of nowhere, if you think about it, and was placed sort of in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what better way for the social justice types to really hijack the MCU than to spend a decade building it up with the likes of the Iron Mans of the world and company, and then sliding Captain Marvel in, having it see success just to say, oh, look what happens when you have this female lead, right? And completely ignoring that just about any movie in the MCU is going to do decent at this point. Doesn't really matter. But when it became apparent that Thanos would be a big villain here, there were 3 names that I wanted to join the MCU if Thanos was going to be defeated, and it's in this order, starting with the ones I want the most. Captain Marvel being number 1, Adam Warlock being number 2, Silver Surfer being number 3. I know with Fox and yada yada, some of that stuff can't be pulled off. But that's where I'm at. When I think of Thanos, I think of those sort of characters, and it would be an abomination not to have at least one of them be a part of their demise. I thought it was a setup to be Warlock, because in the end credits you see in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Aisha is seen sort of looking at that cocoon saying that she'll call it Adam. And I was stoked because Adam Warlock is the second person to defeat Thanos, but even better than that would have been Captain Marvel. And they gave us a Captain Marvel, just not the OG version of Captain Marvel. And instead, we got the 7th incarnation of Captain Marvel. In fact, Carol didn't become Captain Marvel until this recent decade. When I think Captain Marvel, I personally think Captain Marvel, Marvel, or maybe a little Rick Jones, and that's the version that first defeated Thanos. Thanos' first defeat, the Thanos War and the Cosmic Cube, was literally in Captain Marvel's headlining comic, which you can check out on my YouTube, my Who is Thanos series on YouTube. But that wasn't the Carol Danvers version that did all of that. In fact, she had nothing to do with his defeat. So I was stoked that it was Captain Marvel that would seem to be the one coming to save the day, but I was saddened by this version of Captain Marvel being the one to do it. In fact, if you want to get technical with it, and this may blow some minds of the social justice types, this version of Captain Marvel isn't even the first female Captain Marvel. They whitewashed her in a sense. The second Captain Marvel is Monica Rambeau, a black female. Apparently she's in this movie, but like as a kid or something like that. But Monica was the second person to be Captain Marvel, and the first female Captain Marvel. Granted, yes, her powers had really nothing to do with being Kree or Marvel, and she eventually changed her name to Photon out of respect for that version of obviously Captain Marvel. But the Kree human, sort of hybrid, Carol Danvers, wasn't Captain Marvel until literally this decade. She was Miss Marvel and some other names, but She was for sure first Miss Marvel, not Captain Marvel. So if the social justice types really wanted to go all out, they would have made Captain Marvel the Monica Rambeau, black female version. But to be fair, most of the people that rah-rah feminism, comics, all of that stuff, they don't even read the comics like that. Surface level fans at best. And speaking of, you know, Miss Marvel's human alias does have some like feminist undertones, so I expect that in the movie. So it seems like I got bamboozled. They introduced Thanos, who wipes out half of the population, and they tease Adam Warlock, yet never bring him in, and then they introduce Captain Marvel, but instead of giving us the version that first defeated Thanos, they give us Carol Danvers' version that had nothing to do with the defeat of the original Thanos War. Well played, Busters. So no, I'm not excited about this movie, and it most has to do with me just being a fan of comics. Look, I hope that this is a good movie, and I'm interested to what, if anything, Captain Marvel has to do with Avengers Endgame. But in the same respects, I would not be surprised if this is some out of place character being used to really just, I don't know, prop up feminism, play this sort of prominent role in an already established MCU, effectively making this part of a hijack. And because of that, I'm not stoked at all.